guys. So in today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you 10 tips for you to get into the CEO mindset. Now, this is a big one. There are so many business owners who really struggle with mindset. In other words, feeling good, feeling worthy, feeling that it's okay to have these ups and downs, these peaks and troughs, these ebbs and flows in our business. But one of the things that is the hardest challenge and the most important area, I think, to focus on is the CEO mindset. Now, what do I mean by the CEO mindset? What I'm talking about here is, what are the habits and traits of successful, wealthy individuals running their businesses? What do they say to themselves every morning? How do they get into a growth mindset? How do they and how do you focus on feeling worthy around money? That word millionaire status or billionaire status, or even just being financially independent, can trigger so many different emotions because it's the meaning that we attach to money that creates that sense of security or insecurity. So in today's video, I'm going to be talking to you about 10 ways that you can get into that CEO mindset. So I'm Catherine Morgan, founder of the Money Panel, and welcome to my channel. This channel is here to help you to understand both the practical information and the emotional side of money, to help you to become financially empowered, to transform your relationship with money and get you into a position of creating that path towards financial resiliency and independence for yourself. I'm a qualified financial advisor and a multi-award-winning financial coach. And I'm really happy to have you here on the channel. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe button and that you can be notified of our weekly YouTube videos. So let's get on to the video today. And so I thought I would come on today and talk to you about the CEO mindset. And I just wanted to share some tips with you actually about how you can go from getting into that CEO mindset. And I've written a couple of bullet points down here in front of me. And actually really while I've been away, I've really been reflecting on, we've just actually brought on our first employee into the Money Panel. So we now have an operations manager. And what it's enabled me to do is to take time to actually step back and out from the business and think about, okay, we are now a proper business. Like, we have staff members now, and it feels crazy, but it definitely feels like that excuse or that opportunity to be like, right, now I need to be coming from a place of treating this as if I am the CEO of this business. So if any of you are listening to this and thinking, right, maybe you're running your own business, maybe you're not even bringing on your first employee yet, how do you get into that CEO mindset? So I've got about 10 sort of bullet points to share with you here. The first one is about getting really, really clear on your North Star. So when I had 3 one-to-ones today actually with my clients. And in all of the sessions, we were talking about what is it that's helping to guide them? How do they know when they're going to be successful? So in 3 months' time, when we are in December looking back at September, how will you know when you're successful? What is your guiding star? What is the vision that you want to create for your business? Because actually that makes things much easier when you're trying to make decisions about things. So put your hand up and let me know if you're someone that often procrastinates, or you're somebody who perhaps falls into the trap of saying yes to opportunities, and you say yes too many times and you end up getting absolutely rampacked full of too many yeses, and then you haven't got the time to be able to maybe think more strategically, or to plan out your content, or to build your business. Let me know if that's relevant to you, because certainly for me, I've been guilty of that over the years of different times when I've not held that CEO mindset and thought, actually, this is about creating non-negotiables around your time, boundaries around your time and your commitments. And actually, when you're clear on your North Star, what your direction is, what your vision is for your business, then when you have an opportunity that swings your way, you can ask yourself that question: does this help me move one closer step, or does it help me move in the direction of that North Star? So having a good, clear vision is really important. I often talk about one of the things that helps me to create more direction and vision in my business is understanding my values. And one of my core values is injustice. So if there's something going on that makes me feel like, oh, well, this is not, this is ridiculous, or makes my heart like, you get that pang of, oh my goodness, I want to do something about this. Or equally, if something's going on that I think that's not right, I will just immediately distance myself. So I've had to do that in my business with people I'm connected with, people that I follow perhaps, where I think there's just something about that person or the business or the values that doesn't feel right, and you just have to be able to make that decision to step away. So understanding your values can actually help you to craft your North Star, help you to craft your vision. So that's the first thing. The second thing then is about the power of planning and having like helicopter days. So I've just booked a helicopter day in my diary for next week. I've got 2 booked in 2 weeks after that, because it's as important for you to take that helicopter time in your business to actually step back and away from your business to think, okay, so what am I doing? What is my time being used for? Is it being used for in the most efficient way? Could I be making better decisions? But you can't do that when you're in the state of, you're running a challenge, you're launching courses, you're building your audience, you're doing all of these things. So have yourself helicopter days where you can literally take yourself up and look down at your business operations, look at your systems, look at your processes, make some proactive outreach. Those things that sit on your list, like, oh yeah, I've been meaning to get on those podcasts for the last 3 months and I just haven't had the time to do it. It's not that we haven't had the time, because time is the one thing that we can't actually manage. You can't manage time, but you can prioritize it. So having those helicopter days in your diary just enables you to be able to kind of lift up and out of your business and reflect on activities and tasks that you are doing. I'm going to share something with you actually shortly about how do you recognize what is useful for you to spend your time in and what isn't. So I'm going to share a little activity with you in a second. But I'm just going to continue through a couple of these points. So that was number 2. Number 3 then is sometimes it is more about letting go of things than creating more things. So actually earlier on one of my podcast episodes, I talked about the power of law of subtraction. Many of you will be familiar with law of attraction. So let me know whether you've come across the law of subtraction. The law of subtraction is about what can you take away rather than what can you create more of. And that could be less social media scrolling time. It could be withdrawing from relationships that are negative. It could be unfollowing somebody, coming off Twitter, for example, because it's negative. It's looking at what is sapping your time or your energy, and what do you need to remove yourself from or let go of. Letting go of decisions that you've made in the past is a big one. Forgiveness is one of the first steps involved with creating that CEO mindset. So if you've made decisions in the past and you think, oh, that was such a bad decision, what's going to happen is your brain is going to remember that, and it's going to stop you from creating the success that you seek and desire and deserve. So sometimes it is about letting go and being able to practice forgiveness of yourself, that actually that may have been a bad decision, but it was a decision that's in the past. You're now in your present and you're looking forward. So leaving things in the past, you can change your past. You can change your past by changing your future and changing the meaning that you attach to that belief, that story, that experience. And it's hugely, hugely powerful. I use several different exercises with my one-to-one clients to help them to get through that forgiveness stage. But it's a big one because mindset is everything. So getting into the CEO mindset is, what things do you need to let go of? What things do you need to forgive yourself for in order to move forward and get into that CEO mindset? So that was number 3. Number 4 is action as well as planning. A lot of people work with me because they are either high on planning and low on action taking, and they want a bit of a kick up the bum to kind of, what do I need to do, Catherine, to get this, and this done? Or it might be the complete opposite of, I don't plan anything, everything's spontaneous. How do I create a content plan, for example? There's kind of two extreme versions there. Now, what would the CEO do? The CEO would make sure that they know their North Star, they know their vision, they have a plan, and they know what the small steps are that they're working towards to get them further towards that goal, that intention, that North Star. But actually, a lot of people fear action because it's outside their comfort zone. They've never done it before. They're launching a podcast that's new to them. They're launching a course that they've never done before. They're doing a Facebook Live that they've never done before. It's all these things that sit on the planning list and sit there and sit there and sit there and sit there, because the fear, which is just something that hasn't actually even happened yet, right? The fear is the future event appearing real. It hasn't actually even happened yet. So when you take action, it doesn't matter whether it's big action or small action, it builds momentum. It builds momentum. And every little time you build a little bit more momentum, it feeds a bit more motivation. And when you get more motivation, it feeds the next step. So it doesn't have to be a big mammoth giant leap. It can be the small steps of imperfection that make the difference. So if you're sitting here thinking, I know I need to do this, but I just need to get out of my own way and just have the confidence to just do it, then think about what could be maybe a good, a great, and an even better version of that step or that goal. So maybe, let's say, I don't know, setting up your first investment is your great step. That's what 10 out of 10 would look like. So what would a good and a better look like? Well, a good might be doing an investing course to learn about it. A great would be setting it up, and an even better might be having the confidence to start trading, for example. Or it might be that you want to launch your podcast. So a good version would be to get the audio track intro recorded. A better would be to get your first 3 episodes in the bank. And a great would be to launch it into iTunes. So you can actually get to kind of follow some steps of progression and motivation. So action as well as planning is really, really important. And it's when you take the action that you get motivated to do more and more and more and more. Number 4 then is great leadership equals great habits. So any successful leader that you interview, I've been interviewing lots of successful leaders on my podcast recently. One of the things they all have in common is great habits. So think about, what habits do you need to start implementing in order to show leadership, not just to your tribe and your followers, but also to yourself. What things do you need to commit to for yourself that are important? So creating great habits is another really important CEO mindset. And the way that habits are formed is you've got to start with the motivator. You've got to start with how you feel, how you think, that then leads to the actual habit, the actual action itself. Most people go the opposite and do this the wrong way round. They say to themselves, I need to start a diet on Monday, on a Sunday night. They'll go, right, tomorrow, the diet starts tomorrow. And then Monday comes and they're not really motivated. They can't really be bothered. So they go, I'll do it next week. And the pattern kind of continues. So we have to think about, well, what is the thought that's stopping us from doing it in the first place? And actually, are we even motivated to do it? Because if we're not motivated to do it, let's face it, we're not going to do it, right? And often what happens in business is we look at what everybody else is doing. Like, how many times can you resonate with when you felt that imposter syndrome or that inner critic or that comparisonitis come up, where you look at what somebody else is doing and you're like, oh, actually, I'm going to do that instead. And you completely lose sight of your North Star. You completely lose sight of the clients that you're serving because you think, well, they're doing that, so that must be the right thing to do. So put your blinkers on sometimes and actually think about, right, what is the next step for you in your business, in your life, with the goals that you and the intentions that you set yourself? What is your next step? Putting those blinkers on, taking inspiration from what other people are doing, but putting those blinkers on. Where am I? 1, 2, 3, 4. Number 6 is about making decisions. So this has been a big one for me recently. I'll be really honest, I struggle sometimes with making decisions. And often it tends to fall at a certain time of the month. Let's face it, when hormones are all coming at you and you think, oh my God, I can't even think straight. I'm knackered. And that is not a good time to be making any decisions. And when I feel that, I know that in 2 days' time, everything's going to clear, the fog's going to clear, my hormonal fog's going to clear, and I'll be back on it. So I just accept that it's not a good 48 hours to make any decisions. But outside of that time, I give myself 20 minutes. So if there are times where I think, oh, I just don't know what to do, I can't make a decision, I could do this, or this, I give myself 20 minutes and I have to make a decision within 20 minutes. And that really, really helps me. It's something called the Pomodoro technique. We talked about this actually on a previous podcast episode. And that was with one of my guests. And we were talking about the Pomodoro technique. And the Pomodoro technique is essentially where you set a timer and you do kind of high energy tasks for a short period of time, and typically for about 20 minutes. And then you have a 5-minute break, and then you do another 20 minutes, and you have a 5-minute break, and then you have another 20 minutes, and then you have a longer break. But I think actually you can use this for decision making. So if you are procrastinating, set your timer, go for 20 minutes, go for a walk, do something else, go and speak to somebody, but you have to make a decision by the end of that 20 minutes. Because actually every decision you make is a good decision. I always remember my dad telling me that. Every decision you make is a good decision because you learn something from every decision. Even if it doesn't turn out to be the most perfect decision or 10 out of 10, you'll learn something from it. So every decision you make is a good decision. The next tip then is about pushing your boundaries, stretching your comfort zone. So let me know whether this has come up for you before. So you want to do something and you sit there and think, oh, but I'm just not confident enough. It's too scary. And it fills you physically with anxiety and fear. That might be opening your bank statement. That might be going onto a podcast interview. That might be having a completely different hairstyle. It could be anything. But pushing your boundaries is when opportunity comes. It's where that growth mindset comes in. And I think visually, if you represent this, I'm just seeing whether I've got an elastic band in front of me. I haven't. I was going to show you the little elastic band. You know, anytime you feel fear and discomfort, it's because your comfort zone is being stretched. And what sits beyond that fear and anxiety is where the magic happens. So sometimes we have to pay attention to our language. If we're saying to ourselves, oh, that's too difficult. I've never done that before. I couldn't possibly do that. I'm not worthy enough to do that. Oh, of course I can't double my prices because you've never done it before. Then just say to yourself, oh, it's just a small change. Like it's a small step. Because if you tell yourself it's a big change and a big step, you're going to feel that fear twice as much than if you say to yourself, no, I'm just dipping my toes in. I'm just dipping my toes in. This isn't a big leap. This is a small step. And when you reframe your language and think about what you're saying to yourself, you will feel like a million times better. You'll be able to cut in half that level of stress and anxiety, because often it's just that inner critic, that little inner voice that's you're telling yourself you can't do it. So think about pushing the benefits of pushing those boundaries. What sits outside that for you? What would be possible for you if you were to push those boundaries? Okay, the next one then is make mistakes. I want you to make mistakes. I want you to make financial mistakes. I want you to be making mistakes in your business because that's when you learn the most. So every single Sunday I do a review and I have a piece of paper and I cut it into 4 and I share my wins, my lessons, my success, my lessons, my wins, my challenges and my focus. And it's in the lessons column. When I look back at them, I think, oh my goodness, like I've learned whatever week we're into this year, like we're probably week 40 or something, 40 lessons I've learned about myself this year already, probably more. I have more than one a week. That's huge. And when you look back at those lessons and reflect, you can then start to pay some attention to your progress and how much action you've taken or what you've learned about yourself along your journey, because that is the CEO mindset. It's about understanding that there are ups and there are downs. So making mistakes is part of the journey. It's about enjoying the ride. And then the next tip I've got with you to share with you is to play. To play. So when you're fearful about making a decision, think about it as just playing. I'm just playing. Like, I've got this idea, I'm just going to play with it and see what happens. Sometimes the word play can unlock the CEO mindset to just enable you to flex and to think of other opportunities and to be less rigid in your decision making, and maybe even start to dissipate or remove things that are getting in your way. So the word play can be quite a much gentler way of thinking about what might be your next step financially for you to make, what might be the next decision for you to make, without you having this pressure on yourself that it has to be the perfect decision. And actually, we've been talking about this week because we are debating what to do with our house at the moment. Do we sell it? Do we move? Do we send our kids to this school or this school? And sometimes it's just helpful to just play. Well, let's just play with the idea. We actually put a post out on social media and said, is anyone looking for a house in this village? And we've had like 3 people round for private viewings. And we've also thought outside the box and gone onto another Facebook page where the area that we might want to buy, and said, is anyone selling in this area? And one person immediately posted on this post, oh, well, contact estate agents. And I look on Rightmove. I'm like, yeah, well, everyone does that. I want to think outside the box and maybe try and get in ahead before they get onto Rightmove. And then loads of other people were like, oh, that's such a good idea. But sometimes thinking outside the box and playing can really help you to move forward. And then my final step is, and I've kind of mentioned this earlier really, but it's the small imperfect steps that make the difference. The small imperfect step that make the difference between whether you stay still or whether you move forward into that CEO mindset. So ask yourself, what would the CEO do? What would the CEO do of your business or the CEO of your life? What would they be doing? What would they be thinking? What would they be feeling? How would they be behaving? What habits would they have in place? And so those would be my kind of tips in terms of getting into that CEO mindset. And the final thing I want to share with you is I've been reading 3 or 4 books actually over the summer. And there was one particular book that I read that had some really great stuff in about delegating your time. And there was a cracking exercise, which if I can find in my notes books, it was basically about looking at your time and where you're allocating your time. And what you can do is grab a piece of paper and just head up a couple of columns. The first column is the date. Then you want to head up the task or the activity that you're doing. And then you want to do like a start and a finish time, and then a total time column at the end. And then maybe one final column that is about like the return on investment or the CEO. So you have the date, the activity, the start time, the finish time, the total time, and then your the final column, which is about your kind of return on investment. And then you want to answer the following questions. Okay, so what have you observed about your time? So I want you to track what you're doing in your business or in your personal life for an entire week. And I want you to fill in those columns to say, okay, so today I've spent 10 minutes doing emails, then I did 30 minutes on the school run, then I spent 15 minutes having a chat with a friend, then I spent 20 minutes trying to work out how to link my Calendly with my website, then I spent 30 minutes on a coaching call, and then I spent 50 minutes scrolling social media, etc., etc. And essentially you'll end up with a list of activities and how long you spent doing each activity. And then you can ask yourself, what did you observe about your time or the use of your time? What needs to change? What tasks that you're doing are high income generating tasks and which ones are not? So which ones are low income generating tasks? Scrolling social media is a low income generating task. Reaching out to a couple of people you might want to work with is a high income generating task. Answering emails depends on the emails you're answering, right? But that could be something that could be outsourced to a virtual assistant, so that can create more time for you to be focusing on the high income generating tasks. What could be planned differently to create more time, or prioritize more time, I would probably argue, because you can't create more time. Which tasks are you holding on to because you just love doing them? How often do we fall into that trap, don't we, of, oh, but I love creating social media images, or I love doing bookkeeping, or I just love organizing spreadsheets. You might love doing it, but if it's not making you money in your business, then outsource it to somebody else. So what tasks are you just holding on to because you love doing them? And if you're generally honest with yourself, somebody else could do it for you, probably at the same speed, but it would free up time for you to do something else. And then remind yourself of your zone of genius. You might enjoy doing it, but what's your zone of genius? Because that's where you should be spending most of your time. So your zone of genius is what? Let me know. Let me know in the comments if you're watching this on Facebook, or if you're watching this on YouTube. Let me know in the box underneath. Like, my zone of genius is what? And therefore I need to delegate what activity to make a better return on investment. So have a think about what is sapping some of your time in order to be the CEO, in order to step into that CEO mindset. So I hope that was useful for you. So just as a summary of those tips, the first one was to get clear on your vision, your North Star, what's guiding you towards your mission and your purpose. Number 2 is making sure you book these helicopter days in your diary so that it gives you time to look back and plan strategically on what's going on in your business. Tip number 3 then is, what do you need to let go of? What do you need to forgive in order to move forwards? Number 4 is to take action as well as planning, because it's when the action happens that you build more motivation and then you take more action. So taking action as well as planning. Number 5 then is about creating great habits. Great leadership equals great habits. Number 6 is about making decisions. Set that 20-minute timer to make good decisions. Number 7 is pushing those boundaries. Number 8 is to make mistakes and be comfortable with making mistakes. Number 9 is playing. Just playing. If you're unsure of something, just play. Test it. See what happens. Play. And then the final tip was small steps of imperfect action. So I hope you found this useful. Lovely to see everybody, and I'll catch you all again soon. And remember, small steps, big wins.